I was approached to do this project by Caroline, and it was, she basically emailed me and said, I think we've got funding for a documentary about Emmeline Pankhurst. I'll send you the pitch. And before she sent me the pitch, I'd emailed back going, I'll do it, because Emmeline Pankhurst is a huge, huge icon to me. I've always been quite influenced by her, but I didn't really know much about her. And to our shame, in Mancunian schools, it's not really on the curriculum. Spinny and Jenny is, but unfortunately Emmeline isn't. So this is a kind of programme I thought, this is really important for the kids of Manchester, for the kids of the country actually, because she's such an amazing global icon. Yeah, I mean, finding out about Emmeline was one of, I think, and I'm not underestimating this, it was one of the most profound things ever, because I found out a lot about myself as a Mancunian woman. I found out where your strengths lie, and your loyalty to family, and your loyalty to political justice, and I'm not entirely sure, and I'm sure it could, but I'm not entirely sure Emmeline could have been created in any other city, because it was so part of her DNA. All the Peterloo massacre, the fact that Manchester was absolutely first against the abolition of slavery, massively important to her, that, and obviously the first suffragists. So before the suffragettes came along, so it was part of her DNA really. It's almost like it was a perfect storm. Then she married the perfect person, and this amazing, like, working mum from Moss Side became the leader of the general of an army of women, and how amazing is that? I mean, I don't understand why every other bar in Manchester is not called Sylvia or Pankhurst, or, you know, now I've found out about it, it's just opened the floodgates. I think there were so many things about Emmeline that I found out that I couldn't just put it down to one. But I think there was a one thing that changed my thoughts about how you look at little girls, and how you shouldn't say, oh, she runs like a girl, or she's girly. She was lying in a bed one night when she was a kid, and she was about 10, and she was obviously very politically active even then. She used to read her dad's paper to him in the morning, and her dad bent over to her and stroked her head and said, "'Tis a pity she's not a lad." And it drove her mental. It literally stuck with her for the rest of her life. And she just went, hang on a minute, so he thinks that I'm not equal to men. I mean, where's that come from? And I loved that sort of sense of anger about her. So you could see it being cut when she was 10. You know, she was like, hang on a minute, what's he saying that for? He was seeing it out of love, because he could see the society he was living in. But she couldn't as a little 10-year-old. And that was the first time that I sort of met Emmeline, if you see what I mean. I knew what we were dealing with. I knew what kind of girl, and I was a little bit because obviously I'm no Emmeline, but I was a little bit like, no, there's no way you're ever going to stop me doing anything. You know, that's ridiculous. Why would you do that? So I suppose preposterously in a way, there's like this pink and blue nonsense that goes on at the moment, and how we gender stereotype our children, even more than we did when I was a kid back in the 70s and 80s. And that's made me even more angry to try and sort of stop that, or just even to bring my children up as feminists, my boys, bring them up as feminists, and you know, say this is pink, it's blue, it's just a colour, it doesn't mean anything, it's just colours. And so really, yeah, I mean, that was the first thing with Emmeline. And then how normal she was, and how much in love with her husband she was. And now she had 5 kids. You know, just had normal stuff. And she did that as well. What she was so clever about politically is she just put it down all to one question. If you don't want to be in our gang, if you don't believe in votes for women and will do anything to get there, that's it. That's the question. There was nothing else. There was no Irish question, home rule, there was nothing. That was it. Because she believed once women got the vote, everything else would sort itself out. I think I'm not in the film industry, but the television industry, there's definitely work to do in this country. I think more so in America though, because you have these huge pilots that are millions and millions of pounds spent on, always led by a man, always by a woman who's the lead, who's half their age. It's classic. You know, even the extras have to be 8 stone. It's outrageous for women out there. And I think it's a lot, at least women look like women on television over here. And so me personally, I'm quite happy in this industry, but things still have to change. Because you get on a tram, or you get on a tube, or you get on any form of transport in this country, and you see every single colour, especially in a metropolitan city like Manchester, every creed, background, and you don't see it on television. It is still not reflected, and that's a disgrace, actually. It's a national disgrace, and we need to change that. So Emmeline's legacy, I think, for this city, I mean, this is a suffragette city. This is where it all started. And you will see this in the last frames of the documentary. And I think, I mean, you can see what happened with the One Love concert and with the outpouring of support after such an horrendous thing happened to this city. And I think, you know, I wouldn't mess with Manchester. I really wouldn't. And I think from the mayor down, and I think from the communities, everybody really supports each other because it's a very wonderful place. It's funny, it's sarcastic, it's hard-working, but it's very community-based, and with the backdrop of great music and in our DNA as well. And there's a very sort of inspirational package in that, which is not found in many cities. So it's I think that's Emmeline's legacy as well. I think she was absolutely a Mancunian through and through, and it really annoyed me when I read I had got the audio tape because I was working on something when they asked me to do this, and I wanted to read her autobiography because it's so important, and it was read in a really, really posh RP accent. And it annoyed me all the way through the book because I'm like, I am certain this was a Mancunian woman. Why does she sound like this? So I'm literally going to ring the company up and say, I will do this for free. And I will read the whole book again for free because I can't bear the fact that anybody listens to it in Texas or, you know, and goes, oh, she was a really posh. She wasn't, you know, she was a real Mancunian. We found a lot out about Emmeline in the People's Museum, which is fantastic because there's no kings and queens on the wall. It's all about us. It's all about the working class. And I've done a play before called The Taste of Honey at the Royal Exchange, and that was all set in the 50s, and we found out about how life was and what we saw and what we were. And I think that was a brilliant place to start. Also, there's a Science and Industry Museum, which was amazing. I took the kids there, and you saw how hard it was for people, and you could see where Emmeline saw these people being treated and why she was so inspired to change and to change their position, to change their treatment. You know, these little kids having the fingers cut off, and you know, and I thought maybe I've taken them too young. They were 6, but it's really affected them, and how kids as young as them were, you know, affected, and that's what affected Emmeline as well. And obviously the free trade hole where we are now, where the Peterloo massacre started was, and where the first probably militant activity of the suffragettes started as well, all here in Manchester. And the library is we found stuff in this I say we, our researchers have found stuff in this for this documentary that's never been seen before, because there's that much stuff about Manchester history there. They've just dug it up and literally gone through it. You know, we saw the cross of the first female vote. I think it was 50 years before we actually got the vote, over there in Manchester Library. I mean, it's a magical place, and the food's miles better than it used to be, let me put it that way. You know, you don't even know where to eat anymore. There's that many amazing places. It's amazing. I mean, I've seen it over the last 20 years, you know, coming up and down, working in Manchester, and when you've been away and you're working somewhere else and you come back and you just say, oh, there's another building, oh, there's another restaurant, oh, there's another opening. It's vibrant. Everybody's buzzing about it everywhere.